Welcome to our seminar about challenges in aquaculture and solutions offered by Baymix Latibon Plus ME. Baymix Latibon Plus ME. How does it work? We will show some trial results and go into the technology of the product. We all know the objectives in aquaculture: optimal growth rates, high feed efficiency, high survival rates, and good profitability. But with the intensification of production, with increased feeding intensity, increased stocking density, the risk of disease gets higher. Disease and suboptimal management are limiting factors in aquaculture. There may be high stocking density, there can be environmental problems and poor water quality in terms of salinity, oxygen content, ammonia and nitrate content. There may be poor feed quality, for instance, the protein sources. All these factors, combined with microbial pressure, virus and fungi, may lead to disease. One of the most severe challenges, also in terms of economic losses, is the occurrence of the acute hepatopancreatic necrotic syndrome and early mortality syndrome. Outbreaks of early mortality syndrome naturally occur in the first 30 days after stocking a freshly arranged shrimp pond, and rate of mortality can pass beyond 70%. The economic losses in the shrimp industry in Thailand alone are estimated to have cost the industry more than $5 billion. There was a lot of work done to identify the causes of the disease. For instance, Professor Leitner did research to identify the causative agent of early mortality syndrome. In their report, the researchers concluded that Vibrio parahemolyticus is the major causative agent of early mortality syndrome and acute hepatopancreatic disease. Another syndrome linked to Vibrio is white feces syndrome. The symptoms of the white feces syndrome can be seen on these pictures. It was demonstrated that white feces is actually a cell debris of hepatopancreatic cells that die and fall off into the gut lumen, then aggregate and look like Gregarine parasites. Further proof that Vibrio is also linked to white feces can be seen in these graphs. Compared to healthy shrimp, the normal group, infected shrimp have an extremely increased Vibrio count in the intestine as well as in the hemolymph. Also in black tiger shrimp, the main causative agent for white feces seemed to be Vibrio parahemolyticus. In this report by Somsiris et al., 68% of samples were Vibrio positive. So, what to do against vibriosis in fish and shrimp? Vibrio is a ubiquitous bacterium in aquaculture and does not necessarily have to be pathogenic. There are a lot of management factors that play a role in outbreaks of disease, and control possibilities comprise biosecurity, genetics, vaccination, and pond treatment, but also dietary solutions like nutraceuticals and feed additives are valuable tools in controlling vibriosis in fish and shrimp. What can we do with acidifiers? We are looking at different goals that we want to achieve with additives and acidifiers. For instance, decrease intestinal pH, because that means a better nutrient digestibility. Minimizing pathogenic load. That means improving gut health. Strengthen the gut wall integrity for better nutrient absorption and less health problems. Improve the immune system to have less inflammation and saving energy. The optimum pH range for Vibrio growth has been shown to be in the neutral range between 7.8 to 8.6. The majority of Vibrio strains tested are highly sensitive to pH 3.6, and the exposure to these conditions impairs survival of cells for all strains. So that means that acidifiers are a good possibility against Vibrio growth. There is a lot of literature showing beneficial effects of acidifiers in aquaculture. And in particular, formic acid has been identified as effective against Vibrio. So, what is Latibon Plus ME? Latibon is a synergistic acidifier complex that consists of 3 active ingredient groups and is multifunctional. It comprises organic acid and their salts, for instance, formic acid, calcium formiate, lactic acid and calcium lactate, and citric acid. It contains an inorganic component, phosphoric acid, and it has microencapsulated components, citric, fumaric, sorbic, and malic acid, and essential oils. Baymix Latibon Plus ME was created to be active in the mouth, in the stomach, and also in the intestine. Formic acid and formate and phosphoric acid are active in the stomach. Because lactic acid and citric acid and lactate are bigger molecules, they reach the front part of the intestine, while the microencapsulated acids and essential oils are active in the midgut and the hindgut. How does Latibon Plus ME work? First, there is the direct antibacterial effect of the undissociated acid. Because undissociated acids are lipophilic, they can enter through the cell membrane of pH-sensitive bacteria, which has a bacteriostatic effect. The acids enter the cell and dissociate, thereby decreasing the pH inside the bacterium. Because the bacterium needs to increase the pH again, energy has to be expended. Also, the anion of the acid disrupts DNA synthesis and protein synthesis. Benefits of the microencapsulated organic acids in Latibon Plus ME. It is important that the active ingredients reach the target site. By microencapsulating the organic acids, they will reach throughout the whole gastrointestinal tract. Reaching the target site. Benefits of microencapsulated organic acids. By microencapsulating the acids, we reduce leaching, which is important in slow-feeding species that masticate the feed particles, for instance, shrimp. Also, we guarantee a continuous release of the active ingredients throughout the whole gastrointestinal tract. The microencapsulation also maintains the organic acids in their undissociated form, which is active against microbes. Mode of action of microencapsulated organic acids and essential oils. How does that work? In the stomach, we have the microencapsulated product. In the foregut, lipase starts to act on the fat capsule and starts to release the active principles. In the hindgut, the lipase action has released all the active principles so that they can work at the target site. Why include essential oils in the product? Essential oils increase permeability of the cell wall of pathogenic bacteria. They have the ability to change the outer membrane of gram-negative bacteria, resulting in the inactivation of the cell protein. Also, organic acids, now also in their dissociated form, can pass through the weakened cell wall. They are therefore more efficient at higher pH levels, for instance in the fish gut. If you look at this graph, you can see that the minimum inhibitory concentration values of essential oils and organic acids alone against different pathogenic bacteria are higher at pH 6 than the MIC of the combination of essential oils and organic acids, which means the effect is synergistic. I will now come to some trial results that were done with Baymix Latibon Plus ME in aquaculture. Shrimp only have innate immunity, and proteins dedicated to pathogen recognition have a major role in the shrimp's immune system. C-type lectins are an important part of the signaling pathway that activates proper immune response, which is required to keep the shrimp organism alive. The upregulation of the AMP gene C-type lectin is beneficial for shrimps when they are challenged by pathogens. Therefore, a trial was done to test the immunological effect of Latibon on the antimicrobial peptide genes of shrimp during stocking, the pretreatment phase, middle culture, and harvest period. You can see the results of this trial here. While the gene expression was not different between the groups during the stocking period, Latibon significantly increased the gene expression of C-type lectin during middle culture and harvest period. Penaidin, like the C-type lectin, has antimicrobial properties that help eliminate white spot syndrome and bacteria. You can see here that Latibon also increased the gene expression of this antimicrobial peptide significantly during middle culture and harvest period. So in summary, we have an improved immune response with Baymix Latibon Plus ME. During middle culture and harvest period, C-type lectin and penaidin gene expression from treated shrimp was significantly increased. The conclusion: Baymix Latibon Plus ME supports the immune system of Pacific white shrimp and should be used in a preventive manner. In a further university trial, we could prove a clear dose response of Latibon on total bacteria count, Vibrio count, and survival. The lowest dosage of Latibon of 3 kg per ton already reduced total bacteria significantly, with the strongest effect at the highest dosage. Vibrio count was significantly reduced with 0.6% of Latibon. Also, survival was improved numerically with Latibon. All three parameters showed a clear dose response of Latibon Plus ME. Looking at nutrient digestibility and growth, we could show in the same trial that Latibon significantly improved digestion of protein and the average weight numerically. Also in these parameters, there was a clear dose response. In conclusion, Baymix Latibon Plus ME has clear benefits in shrimp. Significantly increased protein digestion, numerically improved growth, reduced total Vibrio count, reduced total bacteria count, and a significantly improved survival rate. What about tilapia? We have convincing results with Latibon Plus ME also in tilapia. Farm trials in the Philippines showed improved growth rates and better survival rates. Results in Thailand done during sex reversal of tilapia proved a better survival and a better growth. I will go into detail with these trial results now. You can see here in a trial done with Tate Feeds in 2013, a higher survival rate, an improved feed conversion ratio, and an improved weight of tilapia. Also in another feed trial, we could see that Latibon Plus ME gave a plus 44% growth advantage in the treatment group. While in the control group, there were 540 fish per 100 gram with a weight of 0.18 gram. In the Latibon group, the fish had an average weight of 0.26 grams. I will now come to a trial with Latibon Plus ME during sex reversal in tilapia. To obtain the best outputs, most of the tilapia farmers choose to use only male tilapia in the grow-out stages. Male tilapia are more profitable since they grow bigger and faster, and they are energy efficient. A common technique to produce only male tilapia is hormone sex reversal. The period of sex reversal is a critical phase in the production cycle, and farmers are especially concerned about survival of fry. So we did the trial in this critical stage of production with 300,000 red tilapia swim-up fry. The trial duration was 21 days, and the control was a commercial feed, while the treatment group received the commercial feed plus 3 kgs of Baymix Latibon Plus ME per ton. The parameters were growth, performance, and survival rate. If you look at these graphs, you could see that we could show that Latibon improved survival rate, feed conversion ratio, and specific growth rate, making it a valuable tool in this stressful time for tilapia. Baymix Latibon Plus ME also has advantages through technology. It is produced in a 3-step manufacturing process, creating a free-flowing silo-compatible substance which is easy to handle and stable during processing. It does not react with the ingredients inside mineral feeds and premixes. It is 100% active, non-corrosive, and heat stable. Latibon is compatible with other ingredients in the feed, while, for instance, formic acid can cause heat reactions. As shown here with the thermal imaging camera, there is no such reaction with Latibon. This means that there is no risk of valuable ingredients being destroyed by the addition of Latibon. An important point is also the pelleting stability of the additives that are used. Baymix Latibon Plus ME is extremely heat stable. You can see here that the recovery rates of the acid compared to specification and untreated control are close to 100% after heat treatment at 120 degrees Celsius. So there is no risk of losing activity during manufacturing process of aquafeed. One important factor is also the retention of the acids in the feed in water. As you can see here, after 12 hours, there was almost no loss of formic, citric, and fumaric acid from shrimp feed after it was immersed in pond water. So you can be sure that the shrimp receive the acid as it is intended. So what are the advantages of Baymix Latibon Plus ME? You get a better palatability and higher feed intake. It has a pH lowering effect in the stomach, reaching pH 3 and 4 locally. It has a preventive and active antimicrobial effect. It is protection throughout the gastrointestinal tract. It has a highly bioavailable calcium content. It reduces buffering capacity in the feed formulation. It gives you better performance in weight gain, feed conversion, and health. It is 100% active. It is safe and easy to handle. So, by improving management factors, optimizing feed formulation, and using Latibon, the challenges in aquaculture can be met in a holistic approach. Looking at the product specification, it is a product to apply in fish and shrimps. It is a blend of organic acids and their salts. It is a free-flowing off-white powder with a pH of 3.5 to 5.0. The normal dosage is 3 kg per ton of feed at all stages, and 6 kg per ton of feed in cases of early mortality syndrome. Thank you for your attention.
Is it recommended to use traditional binders such as jaggery or molasses with Baymix Latibon Plus ME?
We at Dr. Eckel prefer to use oil-based binders with Latibon Plus ME, though it is acceptable also to use jaggery or molasses. But oil is less water soluble, so it will work better against leaching.
Okay, thank you. So next one here is, which is the best binder? Is it gelatinized, starch or oil based?
Just like the first question, we prefer oil-based, again, because it's better, it's less water soluble. So gelatinized starch can be used, but the better option would be oil-based.
Thank you, ma'am. So now we will move on to the next question. So what is the application methodology of binder with Baymix Latibon Plus ME?
We recommend to mix the Latibon into the feed, and then in the next step, use the binder at the same amount as the Latibon and mix it in the next step afterwards.
Okay. So in here, there is a practice that the Baymix Latibon usually get diluted with water. Is it recommended?
It's also possible to dilute it in water and use it like that, but we prefer to do it in the dry form and not to use the water because it softens the feed. And so use it in dry and mix the binder afterwards.
Okay, so in a way, it will prevent a leaching.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Then moving on to the next one. Why is Baymix Latibon Plus ME not completely soluble in water?
Latibon consists of different components, and while, for instance, the organic acid salts are soluble, there's also components that are not completely soluble, for instance, the microencapsulated component, which is fatty acid based, and that will not dissolve in water, and which also prevents leaching, of course. And there are some flowability agents that are also not completely water soluble.
Thank you for the clarity, because basically here, as mentioned before, they have a practice of mixing it with water. So that's why they tend to see that granules are floating. It is not
Yes.
getting dissolved completely in water. So it is because, as ma'am has said, it is because of purely for the technology of microencapsulation. So thank you, ma'am, for lighting up on that topic as well. So moving on to the next question. Is it recommended to use acidic binder, or what should be the ideal pH of the binder to be?
For the application as binder, the pH is not very important. So we recommend, as I've said before, oil, which is a neutral pH. You can also use binders that are more acidic, but for purely effectiveness point of view, it's not necessary to have an acidic binder, or there's no reason to have an acidic binder.
So basic recommendation, ideal to go with neutral kind of pH.
With the oil-based binders, yes, it would be a neutral kind of pH.
Thank you, ma'am. So another question which we have here is, so what is the best DOC to start using Baymix Latibon Plus ME?
So the general recommendation would be to start around 30 DOC, but if you have problems like white feces disease, it's perfectly permissible to use it already at 20 DOC or as early as possible to prevent the white feces disease.
Okay, because the instances are there where farmers faces this kind of issue during the early stage itself.
Yes,
So,
yes,
so it is
yes.
good
And you
that
can
we can.
perfectly permissible to use Latibon earlier.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So moving on to the next one. So another question is based on the thermal stability of Baymix Latibon Plus ME. And the question here is, what is the maximum temperature which the components in Baymix Latibon Plus ME can withstand during the extrusion process?
We have tested the product up to 120 degrees, and the recovery of the organic acid is close to 100%. There is no risk of losing activity. And the other components that are, for instance, in the microencapsulated component are protected by the fatty acids and can also withstand these temperatures.
So this gives the confidence for the feed miller level also, like it can be used during the feed manufacturing process.
Yes.
Awesome. So thank you on Baymix Latibon Plus ME is thermostable even
Yes.
at 120 degrees Celsius. Okay.
Yes.
So moving on to the next one. So what is the individual percentage composition in Baymix Latibon Plus ME?
Latibon contains 27% formic acid, 8% citric acid, 12% phosphoric acid, and 12% lactic acid, and sorbic, malic, and citric acid also in the microencapsulated form in smaller amounts.
Okay. So moving on to the next one here. So what is the best recommended dosage and application of Baymix Latibon Plus ME at the growth stage when there are incidents of vibriosis?
We would recommend to increase the dosage for Latibon to 6 kg per ton of feed, and to divide it into 2 feedings, the first feeding and the third feedings, for instance, 3 kg at the one and at the other feeding.
Okay, so when there are instances of any Vibrio infection says, we have to double the dosage.
Yes, yes.
Okay, sure. So then there is another question which is based on the practical issues faced by a farmer. So the question here is, while using Baymix Latibon Plus ME, is able to control and even eliminate the issues of white fleeces, but it starts to reappear when he stopped the usage of the product. So can you give a suggestion for this?
The problem is caused by the causative agent of white feces disease or vibriosis, which is Vibrio, of course, and that's bacteria that is always or almost always present anyway in the environment. Not necessarily pathogenic, but if the pressure on the shrimp is high, if you have environmental problems, water quality problems, management problems with high stocking density, and so on, they can increase the disease pressure. If you use Latibon, you can control it, and if you take it out and do not address the underlying problems from the management factors and environmental problems, then the pressure increases again and the problem reoccurs.
Okay, so the suggestion is that we should be continuously using the product without the stop till the harvest.
Yes.
Okay.
If you cannot get rid of the management on the environmental problems or the underlying issues, then use it continually to control the outbreak of disease.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for sharing the insightful information on white faces and also how to prevent with our product Baymix Latibon Plus ME. So from the Q&A boards, I believe, and after checking, so these are the whole questions being received. So once again, thank you, ma'am, for spending some time with us and also sharing the answers to the question being raised here. So before wrapping up, I will quickly take you through a short video made for the product Baymix Latibon Plus ME.